Good morning everybody, and welcome to Sculpture by the Lakes for the tour. This is part 6, and today we're going to just walk up the causeway between the two lakes and really talk about one of the sculptures here, which is one that I'm probably best known for, and to answer a few questions that I normally get asked about my work. So we'll go down through the park. On the right hand side we've got North Lake, which is the biggest of our lakes, and then scanning around to the left, this is the artist's pool, and there you can see Search for Enlightenment floating on the lake. And along here, as we walk through this lovely little wooded area, you can see my sculpture, which is called Isis, ahead of us. We have actually changed the name of it due to the Islamic State in Syria deciding to take that name. Originally the sculpture was named after the goddess of nature, nurture, Isis, but once the acronym was coined for Islamic State, we've changed the name to Serenity. This sculpture is, as well as being the very prominent place at Sculpture by the Lakes, is also in London's Hyde Park. It's right next to the Diana Memorial on the banks of the Serpentine, and it's also in America's National Museum of Wildlife Art in Wyoming, and that's it's in one of the 3 key places on their new sculpture tour. I get asked an awful lot if I'm doing a lot of commissions, and my answer is always very simple: I don't do commissions. For me, a commission is a form of prostitution. I'm actually creating a piece of art for money as opposed to from passion. I've got so many ideas of what I want to create myself that I don't want to compromise that by just doing something purely for the money. It also goes back to the other very common question, which is how long does a sculpture take to create? And the answer to that is it's impossible to say, because so much of the creative process is the thought process that happens before I go into the studio. The sculpture Isis was a prime example of that. From coming up with the initial idea to actually going into the studio and creating it was 6 years. During that time I kept refining the idea, I kept pondering it. I then put it away and didn't think about it for a while, then brought it out, slept on it, dreamt about it, and eventually it became absolutely clear how I wanted to create it. And that's, again, most of the time I don't do sketches, I actually carry it in my head. And some ideas I forget about, but I always think they're probably not the ideas that are very good anyway. So there is no answer to how long does it take to create a sculpture. And when you go on to commissions, it's so important to understand how the artists create art. Because if you commission an artist, you don't give them, or they don't have that time to contemplate and refine an idea. They're not going to create it out of passion either. It's not going to be something that they really have got to go in the studio and do. So in essence, you'll be getting a compromise. Unless you want to have a portrait of your house or your dog or yourself, which are very, very specific, why commission an artist to create a piece of art for you? Keep looking at art until you actually find something you really, really love, something you can't live without, something you're passionate about and you know the artist was passionate about creating. That is how you should buy art. So that's the end of part 6. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you now understand a little bit more about the process and what goes into creating a piece of art, and certainly a piece of sculpture, especially when they're the bigger pieces like this. Isis is actually 3 meters tall, and it's one of the largest pieces in the park. I hope you'll join me in another day or so for the next one, where we'll keep wandering through the park, and I'll be showing you many more places around the lakes. Thank you.